Hello there. It's good to have you join us on this episode of Health and Environment Insights. I am Kemi Adeni. Today on the program, we're going to be having discussions around the roles of environmental impact assessment in environmental sustainability. And so to join me in this conversation today, I have with me in the studio Mr. Isaac Ojo. He is the Director of Environmental Assessment Department of the Ondo State Ministry of Environment. Mr. Ojo, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I know that today you're going to really give us informative and educative expose on how to sustain our environment. So I'd like to ask you, what is the importance of environmental impact assessment?
Okay. Before making mention of any importance at all, I would have loved to start from the word environment itself.
Oh, go ahead.
When we talk of environment that is an enabling area where an inhabitant lives.
Right.
And when we talk of an inhabitants today, that is, environment is an endowed natural something that is being created by God. Okay. And the environment now consists of both the biotic and the abiotic factors.
Right.
When we talk of biotic factors, these are the living components of the ecosystem. That is, it comprises of both the human being, it comprises of likewise the microorganisms, and then likewise the fungi and the plants, both plant and animal. And all these factors, that is, they interact together in an ecosystem. Then when we talk of the non-living component, which is the abiotic factors, these are the sunlight, that is the temperature. Then we talk of the climate, we talk of the air, we talk of the water, as well as the soil. And all these things, that is, they interact together to form, that is, to shape the ecosystem. So, and all these are natural, that has been created by God. So, and through human activities, we now discover that most of these ecosystems have been disrupted through human activities. So that is why the issue of environmental assessment is very, very vital, so that we'll be able to contain all these activities of human beings, so that the environment will be preserved and to be able to maintain environmental sustainability.
So why is the assessment important?
So that we are now going to talk of environmental impact assessment now. At least this is a working tool. That this is a working tool that imparts, that is also, that is, it imparts, then it evaluates the significant impacts of a proposed project before implementation. That is, when we talk of maybe a project today, for a project now to be established in any area, or maybe within this our Osrc state, which is a Ondo state, that is, it is very, very important for such maybe a proponent or maybe an investor to go through environmental assessment. Okay. And the reason is that most of the activities of all these normally disrupt our environment, which already we want the environment to be preserved. That is naturally the way it has been created by God. And for example, now maybe an investor now that maybe want to maybe create or want to establish maybe filling station, for example now, or that want to establish maybe gas station, for example now. There are some stages that need to be taken into play. There are some stages that it needs to pass through. For example, now we have what we refer to as the pre-construction stage. We have the construction stage. Then we have the operational stage. Then we have the commissioning stage, as well as the decommissioning stage. That is during pre-construction stage. When we talk of a pre-construction stage, bonus stage is a stage whereby before establishing the project at all, that is the ground, that is the soil and everything need to be prepared. And then during the preparation, a lot of environmental factors have been damaged. The ecosystem has been disrupted, has been disrupted already. For example, now clearing of bushes, then maybe clearing of bushes, felling of trees, that is deforestation, and all those things. Now we will see that clearing of bushes, deforestation, and all those things now have exposed our land and our environment to a lot of hazards. That is, for example, now in deforestation. Okay. That is, as we all know, the roles that the plant is playing. That is, even in the level of a human being. That is, environment now, human being cannot live without the environment. Absolutely. That is, what we put into environment is what the environment will put back to you. So that from there now, cutting all these trees, preparing all these ground, or doing urbanization program, we could see that all these things have brought a lot of our environment.
Okay, so Director, in the course of your explanation, yes, I remember clearly that you mentioned the siting of fuel stations. Yes. Now, I really want to say that. So I really want us to have a conversation about that because it relates to our public health. I mean, your department should carry out some form of pre-construction assessment. Is that what you mean? Now, but we see fuel stations that are being situated at residential areas. You know, you find people's houses next door to such fuel stations. How does that impact some form of hazard in our public space? Thank you,
my moderator. So that, as you have already said, ma'am, that is all this. That is when we talk of impact. Yes. The impact, that is the negative impact out
how safe are these?
So the impact out of it now, that is, are people considered a lot of hazards. For example, now during maybe establishment of maybe a company like filling stations. Yes. I think here now we have maybe we have to as a big oil spillage. That is maybe during dispensing of petroleum, we have a oil spillage, yes, and all this oil spillage now sink or percolate into the soil. And this one mixed with our water, the underground water, and polluted the underground water.
Of course.
And taking this underground water now, of the neighboring community, and taking this water now, it has a lot of adverse effects in our biochemical system.
So what's your office doing in that regard?
So that is why our office now is, always go out to, that is to sensitize people, to enlighten people the importance of this environmental assessment, so that once this environmental assessment is put in place, that is, measure will be taken into place to be able to contain all this maybe the hazard, yes, so that the hazard now will be reduced to the barest minimum, if not totally being eradicated.
Okay, why should this environmental impact assessment be conducted before projects are being developed?
The reason why the environmental impact assessment has to be conducted before establishment of a project, yes, so that most of this negative impact will have been foreseen before establishment, and this negative impact now will have been mitigated to the barest minimum, so that from here now only little or none of this adverse event will be able to come up as after environmental impact assessment. That is why it's now becoming imperative for any investors within Ondo State or within our Sunshine State to always come to the Ministry of Environment and have their environmental impact assessment be carried out before going to any investment.
Okay, in what ways can this environmental impact assessment, what ways can it prevent disasters in our communities?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That is the way it can prevent disasters in our community. As I've said earlier on now, that maybe all this, that is the way it can prevent disasters, is that here now, activities of maybe this, that is activities of all these investors, yeah, during carrying out their investment. That is activities, as I've told you, as I've said earlier on, in terms of maybe construction stage, many of our environment have been damaged. And from there now, ozone layer have been depleted. Yes. And depleting of ozone layer now have resulted into global warming. And global warming today will later result into climate change. And this climate change, that is what we are experiencing globally today. That today now we have excessive heating, we have excessive rainfall, which leads into flooding. And flooding is ravaging everywhere and there now, and has caused a lot of damages to both human beings and a lot of properties.
There are regulations that you work with, you know, as an assessment officer. There are regulations in Nigeria that we should comply with. Now, how effective is the implementation here in Ondo State?
That is, thank you, ma'am. That is when we talk of a regulation, there are some regulations, there are some laws, and there are some rules that guides the operation of environmental impact assessment. Absolutely. Like Environmental Impact Assessment Act, that is CAP 12, then FLN, that is 2004. That is, this one now is being operated within within the state.
What's
then
the
apart
current
from that,
level of implementation here in understand?
Something is
developers adhering to it.
Yeah, that is highly been that is through the ministry that is they are the monitoring agents that are moving around to ensure a proper compliance to all these regulations, so that and any maybe any investors or any company that we get into that we discover that they don't adhere to all these regulations, then the place can be sealed up. It can be sealed up.
Right. Now, for every work we do, for every job you engage in, there are challenges, and I know you must have a bit of them around your department. Now, speak to us about some challenges that you go through in the course of your duty.
Okay, that is in the course of our duty. While carrying out an assessment, we now discover that maybe getting there now, that is there are some procedures that normally followed in carrying out environmental assessment.
Okay.
That is one of this is we have that is we normally go into the community, then we assess the community, that is we assess the area where investment want to be sited. Then from there now we now ask the community, we gather them together, we have what we refer to as a community engagement. So from there now we gather the community together to let them know, because when we talk of EIA, it's a participatory process.
Absolutely.
It's not a thing that maybe someone can just do. So we involve the community, so that from there now we now ask the community and also the investors, is there any conflict on the land that maybe they want to maybe side the project? If there is any conflict through EIA, the conflict will be able to be resolved. That is, that we have a lot of challenges that we have met on the field, but through the help of EIA, some of the conflict have been resolved. Then apart from that, a lot of challenges maybe on our part within the department. That is where we are working now. We now discover that the problem of mobility has always been our problem.
In your department?
That is in my department.
Oh, really?
That yes, when we talk of mobility, that is the means of maybe that is our work is not limited only to the central. That is, we cover our work cover the whole local government of our own state. And from there now, going to the south, going to the east, that is the nature and the type of vehicle we are having is not maybe it's not strong enough to be able to carry all the 18 local governments. So, and if maybe the government can point our assistance to be able to provide maybe.
I'm very sure that is duly noted by government. I am very sure. Now, we know that there are some form of ways that you communicate with the public. Now, speak to us about how you sensitize the general public about some of these hazards. You know, when construction is about to happen, like you said, it is not done alone in your ministry. You involve communities. And so how is this done?
That is when we gather the community together. That is, as I've said it, that maybe during community engagement, that is maybe there are some community now that maybe they would not insist that we don't want such a project here.
Maybe some that communities, for example, in the river end. I'd like you to hold on a moment, Mr. Isaac. I'll be back. Okay. We'll go on a break now. We'll go on a short break now. Okay. When we return, the conversation would continue about environmental impact assessment. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Health and Environment Insights, and I've been having conversation with Mr. Isaac Ojo around environmental impact assessment. And so we left off on community sensitization. Yes. Now, how do you carry out your community engagement?
I think it's during the community engagement process, or maybe the program. I think we normally gather the community together, and from there now, we let them now realize that there's also a social project is coming to their community.
Okay.
And from there now, we now discover that some of the community dwellers there, you can now say that, okay, we don't want such a project here, because maybe some of them are exercising a fear like maybe a project like a gas station now, for example. They might be maybe exercising fear in terms of maybe gas explosion, or maybe in terms of a petrol, maybe in terms of a fire outbreak. All those problems are the one that is maybe constituting fear. But from here now, through the sensitization, we now let the community realize that all these things now, the tanks they are using, that is all these tanks they are using during maybe gas stations, the tanks now are subjected to a lot of thorough testing. And a lot of even that is, it's not just ordinary tank that can explode anyhow. So we now, through our sensitization, we now let them now allay the fear that is within them, so that we from there now to encourage them that without it, and then even let them realize the positive impact that as this project is having a negative impact, which we are mitigating, likewise the positive impact again. Talk in terms of maybe the employment that is through this program, this project. The employment now, problem of employment will be solved within the environment. Many of the community will be engaged in working in that place. Then, apart from there now, cooking here and there, we're not going to maybe the neighboring place or far away place to go and buy or possess all these products. So that from there now, if it is within their ambit or within their environment, to take all these products will be very easy for them.
Now let's talk about our compliance rates. Okay. I know a lot of people like to flout rules, and you've mentioned that you have regulations that you work with in your department. Now, in what ways have you been able to sanction those who flout these regulations?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That maybe when we talk of environmental impact assessment, that is in conducting this exercise, that is we are having 2 reports. We have what we refer to as a draft report. This draft report now is the report that accredited consultant through the ministry before of us produce. And why it's only time it's not on our side, I will have explained all this into detail. But this draft report now, after now, that is it will now subjected into what we call an open public review. Then after that is whereby a group of experts will be invited. That is to come and have a say into what the consultant have already prepared. Likewise, the community now will be called upon, then the proponents, so that from there now they will be able to, they will have a say, as I've said the other one, that is a participatory exercise. Then from there now, after all these things now, then the consultant now will now go and correct all the maybe minor error before final report will come up. And once final report comes up, our final report in environmental impact assessment, we don't play with it at all. We even, that is, we hold this holistically, as Bible is very important to the, to the religious people, to the Christians. Likewise, the final environmental reports. So that from there now, after concluding all these things, we don't leave maybe the investors on their own. Maybe we subject to periodic visitation. We need to go there again to monitor whether they comply with what already has been established in form of a law for them, because they have to follow what is within the report holistically. They need to follow it. So we need to monitor them thoroughly. Are they complying with what already we have instructed them to do? And if we see that the level of compliance is very low, then from there now we can sanction them. Even many of the something can be set up. Then and even for their own good, as you have said the other time in terms of health impact. That is here now, we ensure that even the workers there, that is, they keep up on what we call the PPE, that is personal protective equipment. All this equipment is for their own good, so that once they put it on, from there now, it will be able to prevent for their safety measure. Then apart from that now, after 2 years, after maybe we've conducted the environmental assessment after 2 years, then something will be subjected into environmental auditing. And this environmental auditing is being carried out by Ondo State Environmental Protection Agency, which is an agency under Ministry of Environment. So that after 2 years, it will subject to environmental auditing. Then through environmental auditing, all those things, that is, will be check and balance to ensure that what is already in the report is being complied fully.
Okay. Now, I'd like to ask you, do you have enough capacity and resources to enforce EIA requirements?
By the special grace of God, as we said the other time, there are laws that shapes needs. As I've said, we have a separate law, we have a EIA Act law, then we have a Federal Ministry of Environment laws, and we have many other even international rules and regulations that is we normally use that we normally put in place at least to be able to checkmate the activity of these investors, so that
now for the investors that you have mentioned, there should be some form of synergy between your office and these people. Now in Ondo State, we know that for a lot of people, for instance, who are watching, they might not even know how to reach out to your office. They do not know where your office is or what to do about the proposed construction. So in that regard, what are you doing? This is technology. Technology is evolving, and we know that most often now, nobody goes to an office to make inquiries anymore. Are you doing anything in this regard so the public can be enlightened on what to do?
Even the question you asked me, I'm very, very happy. Even what we are doing right now is a form of it's a sort of a sensitization, because I know people are watching us now.
Yes.
So that through through these radios, through these televisions, so that many people are hearing us now.
Yes.
As I've said earlier on, that it's now becoming important and imperative on any investor within the Sunshine State, because thank God now for our government has provided an enabling environment for any investors to thrive. At least talk in terms of security. Talk in terms of security. Talk in terms of the weather of the states.
For development.
Yes. So and we are encouraging investors to come the more, so that even as I've said earlier on, that even we ourselves, our work is not in the office. We normally move out. That is why I say that we need a very good vehicle for proper mobility, so that we do go out. Then we serve. That is, we go through each and every cranny of the states. Both the central,
all the local
government, both even in the central, in the north, as well as the south. So that from there now, we now ensure that for adventure we see any investment that maybe he has carried out his investment before, maybe ignorantly. Then we like to let him know that there is what we call environmental impact assessment, that they have to carry this out. So that then now we encourage them. But apart from that now, we do at times go on radio through here. Are you getting it now? And that's why I say that I thank you now for this program now that many people are hearing us. It's another means of sensitization and advocacy to enlighten people and to let people know about our work. Because our work is very, very important. As I said earlier on, that human sustainability today depends on the environment. And without the environment, there is no human being. What you put to the environment is what the environment will go back to you. And we have a lot of disaster today as a result of human activities. As I told you earlier on, in terms of deforestation, in terms of maybe burning of fossil oil, in terms of maybe agricultural, carrying out agricultural farms. So many of our environment have been disrupted, and we want this environment to come back to natural. We want this environment to be sustained. That is why environmental impact assessment is very, very vital, and it's playing a lot of a significant role that cannot be overemphasized.
Okay, now let's talk about Nigeria's infrastructure and the future as we're warming up to round off on the program.
Okay.
Now, what recommendations do you have in such regard? What role should environmental impact assessment play in the infrastructure of Nigeria? And also, you wrap it off this way, what's your advice to local governments on these recommendations for sustainability?
Okay, ma'am. So that to round up everything, without
in just 1 minute.
Okay. So now I'm now just maybe admonishing and I'm advising all our people that are listening to me now that it's very, very important for environmental sustainability or to sustain our environment. Environmental impact assessment needs to be carried out. And we need to come to Ministry of Environment, so that any investor or any proponent that is maybe carrying out investment without carrying out environmental impact assessment, such a person has already violated a lot of laws, and his operation is illegal within Ondo State. So you have to come to Ministry of Environment to carry out environmental impact assessment. So I'm admonishing both even in the state, at the state level and the local government level, and then because we all have a synergy together. So I'm advising all these people, so that anywhere they see any
compliance.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isaac. It's so good to have you on the program. Thank you so much indeed. I look forward to having you on another repeat episode someday soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
On this note, we call it a wrap today. I know I'll see you again next week. Until then, it's bye for now.
Thank you, Mom.